Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Hi there, everybody. All right. This will probably be arguably the shortest episode that I've ever done. My apologies on that. But as luck would have it, or certainly as it turns out right now, I don't know if you can feel it like I can, but there's sort of a lull in the action here. It's almost like a calm before the storm kind of approach. Not a lot of major breaking news, a lot of interesting headlines, a few, interesting things taking place, but there's no gut punch right now. There's no slap in the face. There's no major revelation that's taking place. And as luck would have it, also, this seems to be a particular pattern. This, of course, happens with regularity throughout the course of the year, but believe it or not, this kind of a lull in the action happening right now is rather typical in the calendar year. So given the fact that summer is basically upon us, I decided to ask that very question to Grok's AI system here. And again, I pretty much knew that it had a name, so it's not like I needed an AI system to figure this out for me, but it did provide an explanation, as it typically does. Again, not a huge fan of this. I enjoy AI for legal reasons, but when it comes to little trivial stuff like this, not necessarily. But again, when it comes to finding words and definitions or phrases or psychological terms, things of that nature, it can be useful. Again, I don't have a conversation with AI like some goofball, but either way, here's what I asked it. I said, what is it called when in a news cycle there seems to be silence or a lull in the action? It said the following. The term often used to describe a period of silence, or lull in a news cycle is a slow news day, quote unquote, or news lull. It says these phrases refer to times when there is a noticeable lack of major breaking news or significant events, leading to quieter media coverage or less urgent reporting. It says journalists and editors may focus on lighter stories, features, or less pressing issues during these periods. Another informal term sometimes used is the silly season, quote unquote, particularly in the summer months when news tends to slow down and media outlets may publish more trivial or sensational stories to fill the gap, unquote. Now, here's why I think this is interesting. I personally believe, again, and even Q posts would lead this to be the case, that these summer months are going to be massive when it comes to breaking stories, in particular when it comes to politicians. Again, I know that it sounds like I'm date fagging here and basically saying, well, on this month, this is going to happen. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying that anytime that there is a lull in the action, that usually means, again, that it's sort of the calm before the storm and something massive is about to take place. So I personally, again, believe that a lot of this is going to be related to politicians. We've been waiting for a very long time for people to be arrested. We've been waiting again for arrests, handcuffs, cameras in people's faces, trials, the whole thing. Yes, all of the Sean Combs stuff is taking place, and that's predictable, and frankly, it's not surprising to me in the slightest. But I want to see politicians who are currently holding a seat go down. I think personally that that's the most enjoyable aspect of what needs to come and what needs to happen. There shouldn't be deals that are struck. These individuals need to be rounded up and arrested. Again, there's a lot of theories out there. A lot of people are saying that yes, during the summer months, certainly this year, as even again a Q post indicated back in 2019, that 6 years from now, 6 years from then, back in 2019, which of course would now be 2025, that this is where the shit hits the fan. This is where, again, people get rounded up who are guilty, these crimes are exposed, real accountability starts to actually take place. And as we all know, certainly anybody who's ever been a parent or anybody who has been in the education business, you fully understand, in fact, in any working environment, that if there's accountability, that brings justice to people. It brings sort of a solitude and a calmness to an individual because they know that the right thing is happening. And they're well aware, again, that that is the definition of accountability, when the right thing happens. If something wrong happens, then the equal justice that is deserved ends up coming down on the person who deserves it. And that's the one thing that every American is waiting for. And that alone, of course, is also a wake-up moment for a great deal of people. But that's also the unifying moment for a great deal of people as well. Because what's happening right now with this lack of accountability that we're seeing, even though, again, a lot of information is being declassified and there's a lot of information out there very specifically, and this is, I'm reaching back here, but the behind closed door testimony of Nellie Orr, who was the wife of Bruce Orr, and all of these individuals, again, were involved in the whole Russia hoax. They were involved in the entire Steele dossier regarding Donald Trump from back during his first term. Well, all of her files have just been declassified, apparently, from Senator Chuck Grassley, and of course, in typical fashion, she was lying. And she was lying under oath to protect herself and endless other people, and you name it. This story is out there, and again, no one's really talking about it. Because the milk's gone bad on the story. We know that the Russia thing was a lie. Everybody's aware of that. You would think even the people on the left would figure that out, that they bought it, they believed it. They beat the drum, the Russia drum, as hard as they could, even though it was the same media lying to them, and yet they haven't even figured out that they were lied to. But all of this being declassified isn't what we want to see. What we want to see is we want handcuffs. We want these people to go to jail publicly. We want to see this. And again, you're talking about treason, sedition, espionage. I mean, this is massive. But as we all know, and you can certainly tell right now, that the current state of the judicial system in our country probably can't handle such a thing. This has to be done by the military. It's the only way. That, too, is a Q post. Endless Q posts openly say that these judges are too dirty, that the only way that this can actually be handled is through military. So it's not, again, that it's not happening and that things aren't happening even in the lulls in the action here. They certainly are happening. But the justice portion of it and the accountability portion of it is the quiet part. And that's the part, I think, for the American populace that has to be the loudest. That has to be the part, again, that we hear about, that we see, and that is plastered all over everyone's social media feeds and you name it. So again, with that said, there's a great deal of good things happening, and I just want to run through a few. This is from the General on Telegram here. I follow this particular channel. Again, it's basically just headlines for the most part. But it says the United States and Iran are nearing an interim nuclear agreement with a breakthrough expected after their next meeting in Oman. That's a good thing. Not to mention it's being done without Israel, which is even better. The next one says Dan Bongino says authorities are closing in on suspects connected to the January 6th pipe bomb investigation. Okay, great. That, of course, means that the FBI themselves is involved, and you would have to arrest FBI agents, if not marshals or Secret Service or whomever, because there's no way that it was just one dude walking around with some pipe bomb. It was completely coordinated. The next one says the Trump administration has canceled a $700 million contract awarded to Moderna for the development of a bird flu vaccine. Good. It's wasteful spending. It's just wasteful. Not to mention, there's no such thing as bird flu. There's just inoculation. And then, of course, earlier this week, what did you have? You had the FDA, the CDC, and HHS, and they all got together and they decided that the COVID shots themselves would be taken off of the schedule for pregnant women and children and babies. Now, that's a good thing. The flip side of that coin is they haven't been eliminated. They've just been taken off of a schedule. It doesn't mean that those parties still can't obtain the COVID shot if they want to. And there will be crazy people who do. And they will keep injecting themselves and injecting their children and injecting their pregnant selves and whatever else. But again, it's a good step in the right direction. It's not the full-blown accountability that we're all looking for quite yet, but it's a movement in the right direction. And then, of course, in typical fashion, you have this from Canada. It says Canadian doctors are strongly recommending that pregnant women receive the COVID-19 vaccine. So that's the counter and the flip side to that coin, like I just said, is that people will still take it, and there will still be governments that, again, encourage individuals to take it. That should tell you exactly who your enemy is. Now, there's also this, again, this is why accountability can bring together, in particular, lots of different groups of people throughout society, but it can bring together the black pillars, and it can bring together the red pillars and the white pillars. Okay? There are, I mean, it's exhausting, but there are so many black pillars out there right now, and they're saying all kinds of things. They're saying that, again, this is just another backdoor way into introducing the New World Order, that Trump is just leading us into another New World Order scenario. It's just being done a different way, in a more peaceful way, in a way that tricks us into believing that justice is going to be served when in fact it isn't, and blah, blah, blah. Again, to those people, I would say, put a gun in your mouth then. If everything is hopeless and there's no change in anything, and you don't actually see the good things that are being done here and the exposure that's taking place, then just walk off a cliff. But see, I'm going to stick around because I want to see what happens. And I think this is interesting. But the blackpilling, again, the blackpilling is even reaching those who were never blackpillers. And you're seeing how quickly these people break. And it's sad to watch. Let me give you an example. There's an individual on Gab who goes by the handle Patrick Martin. This might be their actual name, I'm not sure. Anyway, they also have a website. They've written some books. They live in Florida. They're from the South. You know, I like a lot of his stuff. He's a semi-good dude for the most part. Either way, and again, I enjoy reading his posts, and he's clearly a thoughtful individual, but he's completely blackpilled. And here's one of the things that he got blackpilled on. He's blackpilled over Antifa, of all things, and Donald Trump. So just this past week in Seattle, there was a Christian concert that was taking place in a park that used to be inhabited by that Chaz group. Do you remember that? Or whatever the hell it was called? I think it was Chaz. It was basically this like independent, hippie, drug-addicted psycho village in a part of Seattle that was completely inhabited again by all of those kinds of individuals, including Antifa themselves. That they don't need government, and they don't need this, and they don't need that, and you know, they'll drink each other's waste and eat each other's waste, and that's how they'll survive, and you know, we'll show you, and all this other stuff. And then, of course, people got raped and people got killed, and everybody was homeless, living in little tents and shacks and whatever. And then, of course, it was just lawlessness. So what's happened is, since that time, which was many years ago, but since that time, well, it was whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago. Since then, the park's been cleaned up, and they're actually having a Christian concert there with a lot of Christians and Christian supporters and people who love Jesus and the whole thing. And they're all there, and they're having a great time. And then who shows up to try to spoil their party? Antifa does. But it's only about a dozen of them. Remember the days, again, when Antifa was like, I mean, there were hundreds of them. That's not the case anymore. Isn't that interesting? That that's not the case anymore, even in one of the major hubs of what used to be basically Antifa's home base, outside of Portland, Oregon, of course, or Washington, D.C., or whatever. I mean, there was a time when Antifa was being bussed around the country to show up and basically just screw up everything. Burn things to the ground. They were throughout, of course, the whole Black Lives Matter nonsense and all of that entire psyop. And that's it. But Patrick Martin actually said this. He said something to the tune of, Donald Trump isn't supporting Christians. And he's not standing up for the Christians in Seattle when Antifa was attacking them. Why hasn't he designated Antifa as a terrorist organization? If you think Trump supports Christians, you've lost your mind. That's basically what he said. I'm paraphrasing him, but that's essentially it. You can't be more black-pilled. I'm not sure you can be when it comes to a statement like that. The exact opposite is in fact the case. Where there were once drug-addicted homeless crackheads, okay, there is now a Christian concert taking place with hundreds of Christians praising Jesus all at the same time in that very location. If that's not a complete 180 shift, I don't know what is. Where there used to be hundreds of Antifa and very little police, there's half a dozen Antifa and 50 plus police, all protecting those Christians and arresting Antifa. That didn't used to happen, but that's happening now because their money has been stripped. Their money funding, the chains of command, the chains of communication, it's all been destroyed. See, this is the problem with black pillars. They cannot see the good shit that's going on here and the 180 shift that's happened from 5 years ago. It's amazing to me. I find it incredibly fascinating. But again, I took to Gab and I responded to him and I basically just told him everything that I just said here. I basically called him a goofball and I said, you've become the thing you hate. And that's too bad. But let me give you another example, because again, this stretches right into things that we can control, I think, and things that we can't. It's a great time to be alive right now. There is no doubt about it. If people are paying attention to what's really happening and they can even read between the lines, it's an amazing time to be alive. But you're hearing all of this back and forth. That Donald Trump doesn't like Putin now and that Putin's made him upset and all this other nonsense. This is all just a show. All of it's a show. Those two individuals are allies. Russia has the right to defend itself. Ukraine is proving to everybody that they are not quitting. They keep sending drones into Russia. Russia, again, keeps attacking Ukraine because they get to. This is allowed. This is what happens. You can talk about peace plans, you can talk about this, you can talk about that, but in the middle of all of that, if you're attacked, you get to defend yourself, regardless of whatever side a person is interested in. We know again that Ukraine has basically been picked out to be the money laundering capital of the world for every U.S. politician known to man. We know that. We also know that a lot of those politicians who were laundering money to Ukraine are no longer in office. Unfortunately, some of them are, and they are still there. But there's also something interesting that's going to happen regarding politicians again next year. Next year, every single House of Representatives member is up for re-election. Every single one of them. All at once. That's rather interesting timing. Now, if you were engaging in a military operation to take back your country and to expose politicians, wouldn't you know that? And wouldn't you want to use that date next year of the midterm elections to make sure that these politicians are, number one, gone and arrested, and number two, replaced with average Americans? Replaced with, again, and I'm not downplaying the word average, I'm just saying people like us. Isn't that exactly who you would want in those positions, as opposed to, of course, all of these individuals with their crazy colored hair and their purple dresses and everybody who dresses the same or talks the same, or all these blackmailed and bought off people? I would certainly want that. Again, every single member of the House of Representatives, all 400 plus of them, their seats are all up next year. And there's 33 Senate seats that are up next year also. 33 of them. Interesting number. But that's an interesting thing to take place. And in game theory, and in the art of war, you would know that. You would be aware of that timeline. That's not an everyday occurrence. That's not even an every year occurrence. In fact, I don't know how rare it is, but I don't recall it happening quite like this. It's probably happened before, just based on basic math, but even so, given the other circumstances that are taking place around the world right now, and certainly within our own country, this is a big deal. You also, of course, have the entire debate of Trump's big, beautiful bill, quote unquote, and how everybody basically has an opinion on all of that and everything that's in it, that it ends up spending more money than what Doge ended up saving, that there are certain moves that have to be made with other provisions within the bill, and they have to be voted on individually, as opposed to, of course, all being lumped into this one particular bill. Here's what I know about it, and here's my opinion, and here's my stance. Not that it matters, but either way, and this isn't me dismissing it in the interest of not wanting to dive in deeper into the actual bill. The fact of the matter is I don't care. I just don't care. It's not something that I can control. So I don't even worry about it. I don't even think about it. That's just one of those things that I just leave to them. I leave it hopefully to the good guys, that the good guys are the ones taking a look at it, and that's exactly what's taking place. They'll figure it out. Good politicians will make the good moves that they make. If there are any good politicians left, the bad ones will expose themselves in the process, and the chips will fall where they may. But it's not something I concern myself with. I do find it interesting, too, that some of these old dogs from the past, who of course need to be tried and executed for crimes against humanity and treason and sedition like James Comey, that James Comey's making the news rounds right now. Isn't that interesting? It's almost again like he's falling into his own trap. He's running his mouth. He's exposing a number of different things. He's again calling on career FBI agents to keep doing their job and stand firm against Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and he doesn't understand why they're looking into the issues that they're looking into because that's not that important and blah, 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 and that he doesn't think that they know what they're doing and a number of other things. James Comey was out of the limelight for a very long time until, of course, he made that Instagram post, excuse me, and then, of course, tried to pass it off as if he just randomly came across that on a beach, that threatening, that threat of Donald Trump. No one believes that, but yet here James Comey is again making the news rounds as if he's somehow relevant or as if his opinion matters, and it doesn't. But people have to ask themselves, why is he now in the limelight again? Is he so stupid that he's trying to actually talk himself out of particular things? Or again, act like he still has some level of influence when he probably has none? Or is he purposefully being flushed back into the public eye in order to remind everybody of who he is, what he's done, and how shitty of a human being he is? It's probably all of the above to some extent. But a lot of this, again, is being reintroduced, certainly to the public, I think, right now, on purpose, in order to remind everybody, again, of what these people have done and how they were all tied to all of this. Again, they could be asking James Comey about Crossfire Hurricane. They could be asking him about all of the Russia hoax and all of that, but they're not doing that. They're bringing him out to make it look, again, like he's one of the good guys when clearly he isn't. Which, again, then begs the question, why? Why is he being drug out now? Is something about to happen? Do they feel like something is about to happen here? Specifically, again, something regarding James Comey or somebody tied to him. Is somebody going to get arrested and then all of a sudden, again, it's going to blow up right in their face like an Acme cigar all over again? It's possible. There's just a very suspicious lull in the action right now, even though very good things are happening. I, of course, am also aware that some very odd things are happening too, and these, of course, are things that are constantly ongoing. More influence from Palantir, for example, in a number of different government avenues, which I don't think is very good. You had Kristi Noem over at the old Wailing Wall, touching the wall. She's not even Jewish, but there she is, doing whatever she's doing. Again, it's a bad look. And I'm not saying I agree with any of that. I certainly don't. But let me mention this too. Again, a lot of theorizing going on, a lot of food for thought, a lot of different takes on a lot of different stories. Remember all of the panic regarding the El Salvadorian guy who lived in Maryland, the Maryland father? He's just a Maryland father. How dare you send him back to El Salvador? And we need to keep him here in the United States because he's a father and a husband and blah, blah, blah. There was a theory bouncing around on GreatAwakening.win the other day, and here's what it said. It was a person, again, theorizing. They said, quote, "I'm calling it. Abrego Garcia, the Maryland dad, is," and then the body of it said, "that guy is in protective custody because he's the guy that killed the two guys that shot Seth Rich. He is the link. This is why they are panicking. This is why it's chess. They don't want him to talk, and they can't get in there and silence him. They are in full panic. No one said it, so I had to. Ignore spelling errors," unquote. That's an interesting theory. Again, we're coming up on the death of Seth Rich here, and Seth Rich, again, was murdered because of what he knew and what information he handed off to WikiLeaks regarding server information from the DNC and how they were clearly stealing it from Bernie Sanders and giving it to Hillary Clinton and then ramming Hillary Clinton through no matter what. Again, it wasn't a robbery, it was a murder. He was found with his watch on him, he was found with his wallet on him, he was shot, I believe, with a .22 pistol in the back. He allegedly survived on the way to the hospital and then died while at the hospital, where suspiciously enough, the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, and her wife, Donna Brazil, were present. Isn't that odd? But there was, again, numerous Q posts about Seth Rich also, and one of the implications, of course, and it's actually well known, is that the individuals who killed Seth Rich were in fact MS-13 members, and that they were hired by the DOJ and the FBI to kill Seth Rich, because they knew what he handed over to WikiLeaks. But the belief at the time is that those MS-13 members were then killed by the FBI, because, again, you don't want to leave a living witness in a situation like that, and they were murdered. But is it possible that this Abrego Garcia dude, who, again, was clearly human trafficking, as I saw the video myself of him driving around in an SUV with more seats in the SUV than is what's supposed to be in a standard SUV of a certain make and model and year that he was driving, along with one passenger, and then claiming that he was working when he wasn't and whatever else. And the cops knew exactly why a person is in possession of an SUV like that with that many seats in it. It was like a modern, how would I describe it? It would be like a 2009 Yukon, GMC Yukon, but it had bench seats in it. It had at least like 9 or 12 seats inside of the thing. They're not made with bench seats. There's a bench seat in the back. But they customized those SUVs for human trafficking purposes because, of course, they can pack more people inside of them. So, yeah, he belongs in El Salvador, but is he in protective custody because he was associated with the murder of Seth Rich in some form or fashion? It's possible. It's highly possible. It's an interesting story. The panic is real, though. And when these individuals do panic, it's for a very good reason. They have reason to panic. They are screaming and they are shouting and they are traveling wherever they have to travel and beat whatever drum they have to beat. It was just like, again, when Doge was busting into USAID and the Department of Education and all these other places. All the criminals came out of the cracks and immediately started screaming and shouting. It would be like a bank robber running to a bank after they've robbed it, standing outside of the actual bank, throwing their hands up and saying, "Why are the police inside? What are they doing inside this bank? They don't need to be here. This is completely unacceptable." I mean, they don't understand that they expose themselves with their own actions on a constant basis. All you have to do is just give them an inch, and they'll take care of the rest. I find it fascinating. I love it. But it's the giant buoy in the water that these people are crazy and that they're criminals. So to bring this back around and to close this out, I'll simply say it's accountability. We need accountability. And let me actually end with this. And I'm at liberty to discuss this, certainly this particular piece of this particular case at this point. You heard me again, certainly in my last two Substack articles, bring up a parent and her son in the town where I live, where her son was apparently abused by his elementary school principal a year ago. And now, of course, this has all come out. There's an investigation taking place, multiple investigations taking place. No investigation has been dropped, even though there are apparently rumors being spread that some investigation against this principal has been dropped. That is certainly not true. I have ample proof that that's the case. What has happened, and what you may recall from that Substack article, is that back in 2024, the parent herself requested, upon hearing about this abuse for the first time in a therapy session with her son, that she immediately contacted the school and asked for a change of school, which is a form that you formally fill out. You literally write the reason why you want a change of school. And she wrote on the form something to the tune of that she had a safety concern. Now, I, of course, have requested this form in an open records request, and wouldn't you know it, I asked for just one form, and they have yet to produce it. Isn't that interesting? Now watch, they'll probably produce it immediately now that I've just said this, but they haven't produced it yet. They should be able to keep all of that all of the time. I did, however, open records request communications and emails between the superintendent and the board members regarding the principal once the principal was placed on paid administrative leave. And wouldn't you know it, that Friday morning, May 2nd, the superintendent himself, again, openly admitted in an email to the board members that he was aware of the parent and that based on her email to the board members about this abuse, that at no point did he ever receive any change of school form from the parent, which is a lie, because the parent is in possession of his denial letter, where he openly says, "Your request for a change of school has been denied. The schedules have already been set. The classes are already full. Sorry," and blah, blah, blah. I, of course, published both of those communications in both Substack articles. After that, of course, there was a conference that took place based on her son's behavior apparently at the school that was initiated by the principal himself. He reached out to the parent, said, "We need to meet." She said, "Okay." And they went in, and then, of course, the tone changed. And then she got upset and told him that she knew what he had done to her son, and that she knew what he knew. And then once all of that happened in his office with just the two of them, he called the police. And then, of course, he contacted the superintendent, his friend. And then they, of course, went after her with everything that they had to silence her. She was criminally charged with menacing. Her court date for that charge was pushed back to June 2nd. And as of me talking now, those charges have now been dropped. So there's no more menacing charge against this parent. And endless judges and lawyers know about this case and this investigation all throughout the county. If the school district believes for a minute that they're going to get away with this, I assure them, and anybody listening, they will not. The simple fact that the superintendent and the principal were working with the police in an attempt to silence the mother and keep her off of school property, so much so that she wasn't even allowed based on a no trespass order, which of course was put in place after the menacing charge, that in that no trespass order it said under no circumstances can she even talk to her child's teacher without contacting the superintendent and the principal first. Does that sound like a superintendent and a principal who have something to hide? Certainly does where I'm sitting. And I think other people know that too, because the menacing charge just got dropped. I wonder what information the judge, the prosecutor in that menacing charge, and her defense attorney had in their possession that changed their minds? What could it possibly be? And then, of course, there's an open Title IX investigation. Isn't that interesting? We'll see how that shakes out. Probably not going to go so well for the district, if I was, just to take a guess. Good things are happening, ladies and gentlemen. Accountability. It's the word that the guilty can't spell, and yet it's the one thing that we all long for. So yeah, it's the calm before the storm, no doubt about it. But the winning keeps happening all across the nation. Yes, there are some suspicious things happening and suspicious moves, and we need to pay attention to that too. But don't lose sight of the good things that are happening also, because there are many of them. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend, and I'll catch you on Monday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.